Well, hello, my name is Brittany Gordon, and I am currently a student at the Milwaukee. Well, actually, technically, I'm a student at Mount Mary University, and I'm working with MTEC, which stands for Milwaukee Teacher Education Certification. And so, in addition to getting my certification, I'm simultaneously working on a master's. So, part of that, part of that is to part of that is to do a teacher interview, and I could not think of a better person to interview than Mr. Rains. So,
Shucks.
yes, so why don't you go on ahead? I mean, feel free to be yourself. I'm going to be myself, even though Professor Becker and Kit are going to be looking at this. They need to know what type of person I am and who you are as well. So why don't we start off with you telling me a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, the school that you teach at, what you teach, and then why you got into teaching.
Sure. Right now, I'm teaching at ISHCA, the Institute of Health Sciences Career Academy. It is a health sciences high school. I teach physics there. This is my first year teaching high school physics at this school. Previous to that, I spent 12 years teaching as a grammar school teacher. I've taught language arts, math, science, art, computer science, physical education. I've pretty much been around the entire curriculum.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So, why did you decide to become a teacher?
I hated my teachers growing up. I was highly critical of the school system that I came up in, and I decided that I could do a better job. So I decided to become a teacher and show them all.
Wow. You know what? I really love that you said that, because basically you wanted to be better for the future students than what you had growing up.
Yeah.
I think
it's a lot of hubris, which I had a lot of when I was in my 20s. A lot of hubris, but still, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that's a great segue into why I chose you for this interview, because I really want to pick your brain. I just think that we're going to get some amazing nuggets out of this. So
I'll see what I can do.
Okay, absolutely. Well, the first thing is the focus of this interview is going to be classroom management strategies. I know that when we were at Cambridge, I was constantly, oh my God, I was either sending kids to your room, or I was having to just really come to you as far as getting some advice on how to manage. I mean, you were so instrumental with helping me out as my very first year teaching.
Oh.
All right, so how do you manage your classroom?
How do I manage my classroom? I try and make it a community space for it. When I was a younger teacher, I really tried hard I really focused on discipline, making sure that everybody was sitting in straight lines and they were doing what they're supposed to be doing, when they're supposed to be doing it, that everybody was listening to my voice at all times, things of that nature. I really focused on it as a teacher. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to keep that up. And sometimes you miss really good opportunities to educate your children, because the best ones, the majority of your children are going to fall in line with that. Whereas you're going to spend a lot of time working with kids who may not work well in that structure. You're going to be trying to fit them into that structure, and it doesn't always work for them. So currently what I do is I try and make a room that is a community. I look at each one of my students individually, and I figure out how can I make the best classroom for that student, which is a very intuitive process. I would love to write a book and quit my job and tour the country selling it for thousands of dollars. But it's difficult to do, because you really have to spend a lot of time listening to our students and getting to know them.
Wow.
So yeah, look at those IEPs, at those 504s, talk to your students, talk to their parents, have conversations with them, and then take what they tell you and take it seriously.
Wow. So, I mean, I think that a huge part of what you said is it being a community and within the classroom,
Yes.
and then also making sure that you're involving the parents. students.
Yes.
Now, I have two questions that stem from that. The first question is, how do you go about making it a community that your students individually feel comfortable in, even though they're different?
You're going to have some. You're going to have some foundational things that just look. This is what this community does, and if you want to operate in this community, you have to do this. So when we come to this community, we all work. When we come to this community, we all respect each other. When we come to this community, we all respect the president and supreme dictator of the community, which is me. I'm not here to negotiate the rules with you. I'm not here to negotiate whether it's okay, to call another student the F word. We're not going to talk about that. That's just something that does not happen here. If you want to participate in this community, that's what we have to do. And then from there, we go ahead and say, well, maybe, for this particular assignment, we'd rather be working in groups. Maybe for this particular assignment, it's something that we'd rather be working quietly. For this assignment, yeah, it should be very quiet, but for this assignment, let's have some music on where we're, enjoying ourselves. But at the same time, you have to be very, very cognizant of listening to and understanding what the needs of the students are. I'll give you an example. I really try hard to build relationships with my students to make sure that they trust me and understand that I'm there for their benefit, so that even when they are not falling in line with what we're doing in the classroom, that I can leverage, hey, look, I'm here for you. I'm working for you. You're not letting me help you. So what do I need to do in order to let me help you? Because right now you're not helping me help you.
Wow.
Once I'm able to leverage that, I'm usually able to get a lot more. But building that relationship in the classroom means that I'm paying attention to my children. So at the school where I'm working now, my students, 99% of my student population are Latino students. Okay, I have a good portion, a good percentage of my students who are English language learners, which means that very many of them speak English well enough and they get understood and they're very good at communicating in English. And then I have some students that understand little to no English at all. And I'm always very informal with my students. I try to be the strict teacher, the very uptight teacher. I was not good at it. And so, like, sometimes when a student is not following a direction that I've given them, I kid around them. I say in a very joking way, hey, what's the matter? Do you understand English, right? When I was teaching students where English was their first language, it's not a problem. If you're teaching students who are learning English and you say to them, what's the matter? Don't you understand English? It has a totally different context. And if I were to mess up and say something like that to one of my students, then all of a sudden I become the other. I become the person that's excluding them from the classroom. I'm the person that has made this classroom a not safe place because I'm not thinking about them. And so I take that out of my vocabulary. I do not say it to my students anymore. I have a lot of students in my classroom who have alternative sexualities. I have to be very respectful of the language that I use in the classroom. For instance, I was corrected. I usually start my class with ladies and gentlemen. I was corrected. Some of us are not ladies or gentlemen. We don't fit in that binary. And so, all of my personal feelings about what I feel about and what I think about and what my philosophies are irrelevant. That's the community, and I need that child to feel safe by the international community. So I no longer say ladies and gentlemen. I say y'all. Y'all, let's get ready to go. Which is not great for the grammar, but I teach physics. Who cares? And by creating a space where students feel comfortable, where they feel like they're part of the community. When a student's gone, I have truancy is a really bad problem in the school overall. So I have students who be gone for long periods of time. No communication about where they've been, why they're not in class, what's going on. When they're away and then they come back, my first question isn't, where were you? Or why weren't you in class? My question is, hey, I missed you in class. You weren't there. Are you okay? That's my first question. To let them know, hey, look, I care more about yourself as a person than as a student. And usually, 90% of the time, that really helps me get a lot of buy-in from them as students. And I'm still amazed by how, just by taking that approach with my students, how far I've been able to get them academically by letting them know I care about them personally.
Wow, that is amazing. So the second question that I wanted to ask you is when you said that you also take out time to intentionally work with the parents. What about the students whose parents aren't as involved?
That depends on the student and why they're not involved. You have students I have students whose parents are, honestly, they don't control their children. For lack of a better term, they don't, I've seen students hit their parents in my presence.
Oh, wow.
And so my first thought as a teacher is, wait a minute, if you were to show that amount of respect for someone who's watching through the world and cares for you and feeds you, what leverage do I have?
Right. Oh my God.
So my first instinct there is to, in a sense, become a surrogate parent, which is hard, because you don't want to give the impression that, I'm your daddy, listen to me. At the same time, you recognize that there might be some discipline they're looking for that they don't have at home. You want to provide that for it. But again, you have to let them know that you have to let them know that you care before they care about what you know. And you have to spend a lot of time doing that. So in those cases, then I'm able to get better results. If I just cannot talk with the parent, sometimes what I end up usually doing is I will text message the parent with a compliment. I've lied. Your kid does such a great job today. Your kid came into class today and they were so focused, or I might find something that small that they did, it's making a big deal.
Yeah.
So now where this parent is usually used to getting these phone calls about problems in the classroom, they know they're getting a phone call from me, then it might be a compliment, and we're a lot more likely to pick up the phone and respond back.
Okay.
Because, as a parent, I know that when somebody's telling you that your kid did something wrong or something bad, there's some amount of shame that goes with that. It's like they're calling you a bad parent. Even though your kid was 100% wrong out of line, you still take that criticism personally.
Yeah.
For some reason. Well, I know why. Because, pride. But, so I really try to work past that pride. And then we have parents that just don't call back. In which case, again, I have to really step in the gap there and really try and create a relationship with the student where the student feels responsible to me. If they don't feel responsible to the parent, they're not to me. I have taken time and gone to people's houses. I've showed up at the door and rang a doorbell.
Wow.
And that's scary to do because you never know how you're going to be received.
Yeah.
But luckily, I'm 6'3" and 300 pounds. So if they're unhappy about it, they usually keep it to themselves.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's really good. And I just think that is so powerful. Being able to have a community focus, in the classroom, communicating that to the students so that everybody operates in this community. And then you also stated about setting the foundations of what this community is and what it is not.
Yeah.
And then making sure that you're standing on that.
Yes.
As well, and then also getting the buy-in with the students. And then one thing that I love that you said is that you have to show them, they have to know that you care before they care about what you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really, really powerful. Okay. So now my next question to you is, how do you practice witness in your classroom?
So what do we call this again?
With-itness. Now, that is a term that I've never heard about until...
Does it have a trademark on it? Like, if I could pay $5 every time I say with-itness?
You know what? You actually might.
So you said that to me. I went ahead, I looked it up, I Googled it. I Googled what with-itness was.
Okay.
And it is a trademark term.
Lord.
Yeah, you have to... I owe somebody $20 now instead of So when I was coming up, that was called teaching. Where you're paying attention to what's going on in the classroom. I loved, I think one of the earliest stories I heard about with-itness was one of my, he was a Bible class teacher in the evening, but he also worked as a teacher during the day. And what he would do is he would keep his fingernails polished. And as he'd be writing on the board, he would always take the point of putting his hands on the board and use his fingernails as a reflective surface. And then, he would see kids about to get up and throw paper, so you throw that paper, you're going out the room. right?
So Are you serious?
He would see the shadow, so he would see the person about to get up. He's like, "You're supposed to be sitting down."
Oh my gosh! Did he ever reveal the secret to the kids?
I doubt it.
Oh my gosh! He used his nails as a mirror.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
He used nails as a mirror. So like
that is priceless.
I'm a nervous nail biter, so my nails are pretty short. I don't know if I can pull that one off. But
well, my hands are too small, so I don't think you see much of nothing on that.
That's one hand that he used within this.
That is hilarious.
Another one is my grandmother. My grandmother is a very, very short woman. She's incredibly short. She's small. And she was teaching on the west side. And she had a student in the classroom that was giving her a hard time, sort of like a ringleader. And again, with her being a small woman, she was not very. She could not bring a lot of force to bear. She's a relatively soft-spoken person, and so she was giving her a hard time. And she did this thing that might be controversial. Obviously, I certainly wouldn't do it myself. But at the same time, it just shows really understanding the dynamics of her classroom, and it was a masterstroke in my opinion. She took the kid out of the classroom, and she took a yardstick with her.
Oh,
She said, "I need to see you outside." Grabbed the yardstick and left. And she had a very calm, nice conversation with me. But the entire time she's talking to this guy, she's hitting the wall with the yardstick. Not like in a menacing way, not in a threatening way. She's just ranting. And this kid is like confused. Like, why are you doing this, right? Nice words coming out of her mouth, and she's like hitting the wall. Get back in the classroom, and all the other kids are just riding this kid. Why? Because he went outside in the hallway and got hit with the yardstick. That's what they thought had happened.
Wow.
And so he was trying to convince them otherwise, and not so. So again, she was paying attention to what's going on in the classroom. She understands the dynamic, and she was manipulating them. Of course, that would never go in a 21st century classroom.
Nope.
No. But at the same time, that did show her understanding what was happening there. As far as I'm concerned, really, I just get up and I walk around the classroom. That's the important part. I love to go ahead and I love to paraphrase Cardi B about my shoes. These is clearance. These is warm bottoms. These is teacher shoes.
Stop it.
The bottom of your shoes should be warm because you should not.
I am done with you for the rest of the day. Not Cardi B.
You should not be sitting down a lot. You should be up. You should be interacting with what's going on, especially when classroom activities are going on. Even if you're addressing the class, try not to be in a place where you're solid. Walk among the students, walk between them, make sure that you are aware of what's going on as you're looking down, make sure the attention is up front. I'll tell a student if I see them on their cell phones, I said, I need you to get off your cell phone. I don't have my cell phone. And why are you looking in your lap and smiling? I let them know that I'm watching you. I see what she's doing. I see what's going on there. But move around the classroom, and that helps you stay aware, be aware of what's going on. That's the first thing. Again, the second thing is watch those faces. Look for changes in attitude. Look for changes in behavior. Try and see what's going on, and then start asking questions. So you might have a kid who comes in and they are always participating. Today they're putting their heads down in your classroom. So your question after class is, dude, why are you sneaking into my classroom? What's going on? Everything okay at home? You getting enough sleep last night? Yeah, I said, no, there was just 2 dogs barking outside of my house and I could not go to sleep all night. My parents are fighting and, I was worried about that and I didn't go to sleep. Or, I stayed up and I finished Rick and Morty. Whatever the case may be. But now I know what's going on with that kid emotionally, and I know maybe the best thing to do in this particular situation is not to confront them on this thing in front of the class.
Yeah.
Because they can't help that.
Right.
Right. If you stand up all night because you watch Rick and Morty, that's on you. But if you stand up all night because you're not in a safe place or you're not in a comfortable place where you need to sleep, that's a different story. Exactly. So again, it's not just what's happening in the classroom in between the bells. We also want to look at extracurricular activity, what's going on outside of that school, and then watch those things to make sure that's happening.
Wow. That is an awesome example of withedness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what academic expectations do you set for the students?
You want to raise plantation, you come to walk. When you come into my classroom, I expect you to do your best. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
And I think that it's very vague, obviously, you know, but at the same time, especially now, I have students that have such a wide variety of academic skills. So to say that, you know, we're all going to get a 90 over this test, or all going to have, you know, this grade point, which is an admirable goal to be sure, but I just have a lot of students who are going to have to fight really hard to get there. And the problem is that we have to fight it.
So here's my next question. If you have different skill levels, like for instance, you have somebody who is above grade level, someone who's at grade level, and then someone who is below, what behavioral expectations do you set, or how do you differentiate between those students in one class?
Everybody can be political. That should not be happening in the classroom. And if it does happen in the classroom, administrator at some point has failed you as a teacher and you've failed the students. I should not be in a classroom with a kid who's reading at or above grade level and have enough students in my same classroom reading at 2 or 3 grades below grade level. You and I have both been in classrooms where that's happened.
Yes.
We know what that's like.
Yes.
And we recognize that the reasons behind those decisions have nothing to do with making sure the student is in the best environment for their education. It's all about money, politics, and space.
Yep, pretty much.
And so to give me that problem and now expect me to come up with inventive ways of solving that problem is wrong.
Yes.
It's wrong to do. Having said that, what I try and do is make sure that as I'm creating each lesson plan, that I'm thinking about those levels of skill in each lesson plan. And so I recognize that I might have some text where the student's not going to be able to read this text. So what I might do is I might hand the text out. I might have a modified version of the text where I'm expecting less critical questions. So one version of it, I'm asking critical questions. What do you think about this? What do you think the implications are? What can be inferred from this sentence right here? On another version, I just might be asking simple questions like, you know, who is this person? When did they do this? Give me some text-based evidence for what's happening here. You know? And then what I do is everyone else is reading. I'm sitting down with those students and I'm saying, okay, guys, let's read this thing together. You guys read this with me. Help me out reading this, and then I'll read it to them so they can have it, and then I'll stop to make commentary on what was just read, and then get feedback from them.
Okay.
And that is one way that I deal with it, but it's not ideal. Because then what it does is it sort of singles out the students as not as good as the other students.
Yeah. And that can create a negative dynamic as well.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree with you 100% there. So what are your behavioral expectations that you set in the classroom?
Every class, I'm going to have 3 rules. Okay. Obviously, all the other rules in the student handbook are in play. But I have 3 basic rules to make sure that my class goes smooth.
Okay.
1, first rule is obey your awesome and handsome teacher at all times. Okay. Rule number 2 is respect yourself and respect the other people in the classroom.
Okay.
And rule number 3 is do the work that you're given.
Okay, and why have you chosen these 3 rules? And you said all the other rules in the student handbook are in play, but why have you chosen these 3 particular rules?
Because those are just, that's all you need in order to have a classroom that works smoothly and efficiently, that works well. Okay, that's it. That's all you need. Everything. Okay, so you ever hear the story about the Jewish cleric?
No.
There's a Jewish cleric named Hillel. Okay, and he was considered very wise, but he was also despised by some of the other clerics. And so one day they challenged him. They said, "Well, you know so much about Scripture." They said, "I want you to go ahead and I want you to recite all of Scripture, right, while standing on one leg." Leo says, "I can do that." He says, "Okay, then do it." So Leo stands on one leg and he says, "Love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Everything else is commentary."
Wow.
That's it. You know, and it's the same thing. I mean, if you go ahead and you look at an entire student handbook, that's it. That's everything. You know, just do what we ask you to do. Make sure you respect each other, right? And then do the work that's given to you. Now, if I can't get you to agree to do number one, the entire handbook is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Right? If you had made a decision that you're going to come into the school and obey your administrator, obey your teacher, then all the other stuff about cell phone policy and dress code and what time you show up to school, all that is irrelevant. If you haven't made a decision to come in and make your classroom a safe place, now students cannot concentrate. I think a lot of us been here. We cannot concentrate on our academics because we're worried about what's going to happen when we walk into that classroom.
Exactly.
You know, and we've all been there.
Yes.
You know? And then, of course, the third one is that obviously, if you're going to be able to achieve the level of academic greatness that I want you to achieve, when I ask you to do something, when I give you an assignment, you need to do it. If you don't do it, then you're not going to get that growth you need. So when you come back to me in May and June and ask me to give you extra credit assignments,
to make it for a whole semester that you've missed.
This is where I give you the finger. This is where I'm like, remember rule number 3? Yeah, we didn't do rule number 3, so I really cannot see myself helping you to graduate or get a good grade this year. So I think you've earned this F and you ought to keep it.
Yeah, it's yours.
Yeah, it's yours. You wanted it, you got it.
Yep. Okay, I love it. Absolutely. Okay, so then now, and we kind of touched on this in the beginning, but what do you do to support positive student behaviors?
I congratulate you. Like, you know, it's very easy, especially for a person like me, to focus on what's going wrong in my classroom. And I've had to learn as a teacher to spend more time giving people congratulations for what they're doing right. You know, and I was raised, you don't get congratulations for doing the bare minimum. You know,
or what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, right. You're like, you know, you came in and sat down quietly. Good job. You know, so I try not to give people. I try not to go that route, but at the same time, you know, I start writing on the board, right? And I see students already writing down the notes, right? And I see other students are not writing down the notes. I'll be like, "Hey, Juan, thanks for going ahead and writing down what's going on here. I think you're going to do well on the test today." You know?
Yeah.
Or not only just saying to the students, "This is what I think you're doing well," but this is the reward you're going to benefit from. It's going to benefit as a result of your positive behavior and good behavior. And that way, I'm going to spend a lot of time focusing on the negative.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and then how do you address challenging student behaviors?
I hit them hard. No.
As much as we want to at times.
I do not hit students. I've never laid my hands on a student. I'm just kidding. For the law, you cannot use that. Whenever a student is challenging, again, that's where the relationship building talk about earlier comes in.
Wow.
I had a student that was frequently brought to my classroom. They were a kindergartner. And this is one of the students that I saw, you know, hitting his parent. You know? So I knew that this parent was useless, you know, as far as getting this kid to behave the way. This kid would frequently smart mouth talk back to the parent, other teachers, and the teachers literally had to bring him to my classroom because they were afraid they were getting too emotional. Okay? So they come to my classroom, and again, they give me the same treatment, and I just started building relationships. You know, I found out what they were interested in. I found out what made them tick, what made them happy, what their motivations were. And for a lot of students, they do want to feel validated. You know, they want to feel like somebody sees them. And when you let them know that you see them, and that you understand that they are a full person and not just their behavior, they like that. And in a lot of cases, that person wants to be the person that you see, the person that you think they are so much that they will do anything for you.
Wow.
Yeah, they'll do anything for you. Does it work 100% of the time? No. Some students need serious therapy. They need some serious therapy. And they're not getting it.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've had to accept as a teacher is that I cannot save everybody.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, and this is the hard part as a teacher, you have to see a kid is just a tire fire burning next to some nice houses, and you have to keep that fire as far away from the nice houses as possible.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do, while at the same time trying to manage and put out the fire.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just give up on the kid.
Uh-huh.
At the same time, you just gotta recognize, like, this kid has some things going on that I can't help. Sometimes you want to be able to have a relationship with your kid because you're black.
Yeah.
Because you're a woman.
Uh-huh.
You know, because you're not 6'3".
Mm-hmm.
You know, I recognize that as a male, as a large male in my classroom, that helps my classroom management.
Yeah.
You know,
it does.
When I raise my voice, especially with younger children, it has an effect.
There's an authority there.
Yeah, but I would rather that I had kids in my classroom doing what they want to do because they're part of the community and not because they're scared that I'm going to start yelling.
Yes.
And so, as I've become more experienced as a teacher, I've had to rely less on my physical presence and rely more on my heart and my smart.
Awesome.
I ought to trademark that and sell that to people.
Your heart and smart. You know what? Yep, that's what's up.
Oh my God, we ought to
should.
do things like do tours and do PDs all over the country.
You really honestly should. You should make a hashtag too.
Hearts and smarts.
Hearts and smarts.
I like that.
Sounds like a good, you should keep that in mind. Absolutely. All right.
Fresh witness.
Indeed. Witness. So, what routines and procedures do you establish?
It really depends on my classroom. You know, I really try, now that I'm teaching high school, when I'm working with high school students, I try and respect their feeling of autonomy. They need structure, obviously, but at the same time, they don't want to feel like they're in a fifth grade classroom. So when we come to the classroom, have a seat. I allow them to talk among themselves. When you hear my voice, though, talking needs to cease. When I am talking to you or writing things on the board, if you don't know something, you need to be writing it down. When someone else is speaking, you don't speak. If somebody says something humorous, do not laugh at them. You got a class clown, you want to laugh with them, that's different. But if somebody's honestly giving me a sincere answer, don't laugh at them, and we know the difference. We're almost grown men and women in this classroom. We know the difference. Outside of that, keep those 3 rules in motion. As long as you have those 3 rules in motion, then the class goes smoothly. And it becomes a procedure. And again, I'm not honestly. One of my weak points as a teacher has been procedure. I don't like going into procedural environments. I don't like places where there are procedures. I do like structure, but I'm not like over structure because it does not allow me to do the things that I need to do. When I went to school, I'm undiagnosed with ADHD. I did not recognize that until I was an adult. When I recognized the things that I needed to do in order to do well as a student, I always had people and teachers who would not allow me to do that thing because it did not fit into their procedure.
Or the structure.
Exactly. So I remember better with pictures than words or language. And I would doodle. And my doodles were never, of course, they see me doodling, you're not paying attention, and I had to stop doodling. So I had to do things their way, which caused me to do worse as a student. And it wasn't until I got into college I had first of all, I had teachers who didn't care what I did. I could have went to sleep if they wanted to. And if I wanted to, they didn't care. But also, now that I had the freedom and autonomy to govern myself as a student, I didn't do better as a student.
Okay, so I love what you mentioned about governing yourself as a student, because ultimately when you give students the space to be able to govern themselves, that helps with classroom management as well.
Yes. And that's more harder at the younger levels. Now, at the younger levels, I'm a lot more about procedure and structure. So, we come in, everyone has a seat. My first word is, pay me what you owe. Pay me what you owe me, just have to take out your homework, put it in the homework bin, right? And then we'll go over the homework together. After we go over the homework together, I'll go ahead and tell the students what we're going to be learning for that day. I'll go ahead and try to see what prior knowledge they have, adjust my lessons appropriately, and then we'll get into the lesson. At the end of the lesson, we do a check-in to see what they've learned, what they've taught. I provide them with homework for the next day, and then send to class. So that's the big thumbnail of the general structure of a classroom for younger kids.
Okay.
Again, for older students, the process is a bit more complicated because they do want to feel like they are there and you respect their autonomy.
Okay. Good stuff. So we've talked about rapport all throughout our interview. I guess technically I can ask you how you develop rapport, but I know you already touched on it in terms of building relationships with the students and how important that is for classroom management.
Go to those baseball games, go to the art shows, go to the graduations, go to the quinceañeras. If they ask you, hey, I'm doing this thing, go. Do it, be there. And it builds great rapport.
Wow.
I have students that came into my classroom, and I would think that they were not there for the class, they didn't really appreciate it, but they come and tell me, I miss your class. I love being in your class. Which is a surprise to me because you slept the 50% of it, but okay, great, wonderful.
Right.
I'm glad you missed it. Yeah.
Wow, that is awesome. So, do you have any classroom rituals or traditions?
Do I have any classroom rituals or traditions? I've had some, and they've evolved and changed over the years. And some of them are probably ones I wouldn't necessarily be proud of, but they are fun. So like, for instance, whenever I'm using a dry erase board and you ever pick up a marker and it's dry, why do we put the cap back on and put it back down? So we can just pick it back up again.
Yeah.
So what I always do is that if I'm drawing in class, they say, oh, it's not working, it's got to go. And so the kids know I'm just going to toss it in the garbage can immediately. Wherever I am, 3-point shot, go for the garbage can.
Yep.
But probably on a more constructive level, we have the pay me what you owe, which the kids are looking forward to. They love that, pay me what you owe. And I don't know, it's really hard. I can't think of anything that I say, this is going to be our tradition, this is what we're doing in this class. This is our camp, this is our yell. Like, we used to have the Cambridge school thing.
Yeah.
I never really thought of it that way. A lot of the stuff happening in my classroom is probably organic, and even though I'm trying to be very mindful about what happens in my classroom, what I like to do every once in a while is videotape myself teaching.
Oh, wow.
Just to see what I look like, because I had that experience earlier by mistake. I was taping a class assignment for that student was doing, and I videotaped myself. And when I saw what my kids see, oh, that doesn't look good.
Yeah.
I had this habit of getting lost when I was doing stuff. So, outside of that, no, not really.
Okay, that's awesome. All right. Well, did you want to end this interview with any words of wisdom, any favorite quotes, or anything that you feel that I would really need on my journey?
Well, you are going to have a student that tries you. And you're going to have a student that seems irredeemable. And whenever you have that student, I want you to think about the worst thing you've ever done to somebody. and why you did it and how that made them feel, and then how that person that you wronged could have redeemed you, and they keep that in mind as you deal with that student.
Wow.
Yeah. They're going to call you the B word. They're going to cuss you out. They want to do that. And oftentimes you got to remember that it's not about you. And you have to, even though this person has set themselves up as your enemy, you still have to be their advocate.
Wow.
And you'll be surprised what type of horrible fecal situations just turn out of that attitude. And you, don't get me wrong, you're going to have a lot of fecal, you just got to flush it. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes you'll just have these students that you will have lifelong relationships with. And those are the students that gave you the most trouble in that class.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Well, Mr. Raines, thank you so much. I mean, you have just given me just solid gold today. I know that this is really going to help me to become a better teacher, a better person, and then you've really given me a lot to think about in terms of how to think about my upcoming year. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day with your family to come out here and just really bless me with your words of wisdom.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for asking.
Oh, no problem. All right, thanks. Likewise.